folks, welcome you all to what I think is a podcast, but it could be a vlog. We're in the podcast room, people. We're in the podcast room, and there is a reason for it. And I'm not quite sure whether to make this just call it a podcast or call it a vlog. It doesn't really matter, I guess. But I guess with the podcast, you get me nearer the microphone with less sensitivity. It's a little bit more, soothing on the ears, people. For those of you that like that sort of thing, the podcast, it sounds a bit. When I do the vlogs, same microphone. Well, another of these downstairs, but the sensitivity is really high and the microphone's away from me, so you don't see it on camera, but you still get good quality sound. Far better than the camcorder would ever give you, of course. And up here, we have the sensitivity down by a lot, and then it's much closer to my mouth, so that you get that richer sound. That same concept is done downstairs when I'm recording games, because I can have the microphone near me because I'm not on camera, so I kind of, well, to be fair, even when I did a stream, I still do the microphone near me. It's just with the vlogs, it just seems more natural to be without the microphone right in front of my face, that's all. So anyway, the reason I digress, people, I often do. We know this by now. But yeah, the reason that I'm up here, because I was going to do this as an update vlog, is because, well, I've had a hell of a week, people. And I'm going to explain to you why there's not been much in the way of recording. I did manage to get you a couple of Skyrims up this week, but I'm really podcasting / vlogging to apologise for not getting much up this week and tell you not to worry. I know there are those doubters of you out there. There's always doubters. I know you are. Thinking, oh, here's Steve. He's gone off the boil again. He's not going to be recording. I haven't gone off the boil at all. I've just had a hell of a week at work. So my day job has no one's asked me to, but my day job has consisted of me working quite late in the evenings because I wanted to get stuff fixed and working, because we had a bit of we had a I don't know how, it's not a server loss, but we have all the data, but we couldn't restore the server that had gone down, so we had to kind of create a new one and then drag everything across, and it was a big concept. It was like rebuilding the server from scratch. And it's fine, but I worked quite a few evenings late, and last night I worked till about 10 o'clock. I was like, I ordered a Chinese in. I thought, right, I'm having me Chinese while I'm doing all this stuff, dragging it all across. And so I was just sort of on one to get that sorted, because to be fair, it couldn't have been a worse server in my world for it to happen to, because it affects everything. So anyway, in the grand scheme of things, it was pretty impressive, because although it took us, say, 4 days to get back to pretty much where we were from a user's point of view, there was still lots to do in the background. The first couple of days were really us just sitting there waiting for the restore procedure to say either it was going to succeed or fail. And it just takes ages, because it's such a big server. It just takes ages to tell you the answer. So there's just all these attempts that, it was pretty impressive, because we got the whole server back up and, well, rebuilt basically from scratch, up and running, with, well, pretty much everything on it, but there's still a bit to do in the back end. But from a user's perspective, everything there and working pretty much in a day and a half, which is pretty impressive considering the amount of stuff that's on it. I mean, it's our biggest sort of data server as far as it goes. So yeah, anyway, my main focus has been on that. And I did get one evening, I think it was Tuesday evening, where I managed to get on and do a bit of Skyrim. So I recorded a couple of episodes of Skyrim on the PS4 with the, PS5 with the 60 FPS mod on, with trophies, people with trophies. And thoroughly enjoying it. But I just didn't, the rest of the evenings were just taken up with me working late and getting things sorted out. So that's the only reason that I haven't recorded anything this week other than those 2 episodes. So do not, worry ye not, people. For those people that have joined the channel to see me do, excuse me, people, see me do the gameplay type stuff, then there's plenty to come. I mean, if you can convince 1 million of your friends to come and watch, I'll just do that full time. Flaggins up to you all. I've not said it, have I? Flaggins up, people. Oh, I tell you what, I feel like I need it this week. I'd share it with you if I could, people. I would. It's a nice cold one as well. So, I have every intention of continuing to record Skyrim on the PS5 with the 60 FPS mod on because I'm really enjoying that fresh start. I do apologise to anyone who was watching it on the Xbox. There's no way that I can play it on both platforms, and I am finding that this particular mod is smoother than the other mod, so I've been really impressed with just how smooth it is at 60 on the PS5. But I'm not comparing consoles, I'm just comparing the mods because they're two different mods. So I'm really impressed with the PS5 one, I have to say. And obviously that trophy trick, apparently it works on the Xbox as well. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you go and watch part 1 of the PS5 Let's Play of Skyrim on PS5 on the channel, you'll see me show off how you can trick it into thinking you've not got a mod on when you've actually got 60 FPS going. And then you can reactivate your achievements or your trophies and crack on. But, you know, the only downside to sort of starting fresh is that you've got that sinking feeling of, oh my God, I just got my smithing up to level 60. And anyway, I've got every intention of recording a shit ton more of that, people. So we'll be getting on with that. And I've got every intention of cracking into, because I'm still adoring it, even though I've done none of it this week, the Immortals Phoenix Rising and whatever else comes my way. I had every intention of doing a few God of Wars, not a whole Let's Play, but yeah, they've just released the patch for God of War, which is for 1440p 60 FPS, I want to say, something like that. So apparently it looks fantastic, so I wanted to try that out. Thought I would share it with you, but I never got around to it. But I'm still dying to get back to a third Let's Play, but I'm trying not to. I don't know. I mean, we've still got Kingdoms of Amalur, we've still got Dark Souls 3, we've still got, you know, other things that I still wanted to get back to, but trying to juggle that many Let's Plays is quite difficult. Fallout 4 as well. I haven't got back to that yet with the mod on. I kind of backed away from Fallout because I still have this feeling that they're going to give us a mod that, you know, an official patch. However, the other thing is I haven't actually asked anyone or tried whether or not that 60 FPS patch would work, you know, with the achievements turned on, would work on Fallout 4 on the Fallout 4 on the Xbox Series X. Because if it does, then I could have been playing that with my bloody achievements on, because I've still not finished that game and I want the achievements for the stuff that I do. I hate having achievements turned off. It winds me up. So there you are. I've got the crux of it is, people, that I am still gasping on recording some more gameplay for you. And I did get a couple of episodes of Skyrim up, and I will get, probably tomorrow I'm just going to have a chill day, but then hopefully on Sunday I'll crack into a big bunch of recording of Skyrim and Immortals, one or the other, and through next week, when now that things have calmed down. But the main reason that I'm in this room and not the vlog room this is the podcast room, people. Normally, if you've not watched one of my podcasts, normally I try and find some nice screenshots and stuff of games or whatever I'm talking about that particular podcast. We'd have them up on the screen behind me and that sort of thing. But as you know, I'm in this room because I'm still running some procedures in the background on this laptop here, which is my work laptop, while I'm recording this at the same time. Because there was things I wanted to get done today that I couldn't. So I thought, well, I'll just kick off. It's stuff that I've got set up but couldn't run because I needed other things to be done at the time. So I'm now running those things now and wait for those to finish and then run the next ones and so on. So I thought I would just do them up here while I'm recording. So I'm just doing a bit of day job and a bit of, you know, bit of podcasting or vlogging, whichever you want to call it, people. We're in the podcast room, so we'll probably call it a podcast. And we're in podcast sound mode, I suppose. But while we're here, and I'm working with no notes today, people. This whole podcast, normally I've got some sort of list of what I want to talk about, but I don't have anything today because it's just on a whim. Well, it's not on a whim. It's because I wanted to reassure you that I was still well up for doing recording. It's just been one of those weeks where I didn't get time. You know, if I didn't have a day job, you'd be getting so much more content. But I do have a day job, so you know. That's the one that pays the wages, people. I'm getting another sip of this. So, Yeah, I mean, I almost did it on the. I almost did a podcast on the little telephone machine because this is 1080p camera anyway. But you know, I like the sound and what have you of the Rode microphones and all that sort of thing. Odds and ends, that sort of thing. God, Skyrim stuck in my head now. Everything's for sale, my friend. Everything. If I had a sister. Get old Bellathor. So, yeah, so there we are. So that's my week, and that's why I'm in this room. We do have that to talk about in the world of... that to talk about. We do have things to talk about in the world of gaming. So far as the only thing I've really been thinking about this week is there's been a whole bunch of talk about Mass Effect Trilogy, which is now coming out in... We've got a set date of May the blah. You can go and look that up, but it's in May. And so we're getting the Mass Effect Trilogy remastered on PlayStation 4 and Pro, Xbox One and X, and that's it. But they will work on the new gen consoles. They haven't done anything additional for the new gen consoles, but they are saying that the enhancements, I think, that are on the Pro and the X will just be running better on the, So I figure what that means is the 4K 60 FPS modes that are on One X and PS4 Pro will run a lot better on the new gen consoles. So basically that's what we're looking at. So it will run on all consoles and run better on the new ones, but there's nothing specifically been done for the new ones. I guess you're just looking at locked at 60, but the new ones deal with it better at 60, much more solid. They'll probably get more drops on the old consoles, that sort of thing. So I'm actually quite excited for that trilogy to be remastered and play again. If it was me, I'd rather have had the Dead Space ones. But as they shut the studio down, the bastards, we're not going to get those anytime. Well, we might do. I mean, if they could do a third-party studio to get Dead Spaces done. But, I mean, really all I want is Dead Space 1 and 2. I mean, I would play 3 again. Of course I would. But there was a lot of letdowns in 3. We've had this conversation before, people. 1 and 2 are just 2 of the best games I've ever played. And 2 of the only platinums I have. And 1,000 Gs as well. I got the 1,000 Gs on the Xbox for both games, and then got the plats on the PlayStation. So I'd love the opportunity to go for all those trophies again and play those games again remastered, absolutely. And to be honest with you, I don't know why EA's hung about on the remaster front or the remake front even, because if they just have to look at the earning, the money that the other companies are making by doing Resident Evil remakes and remasters of all sorts. But, I think to some extent, I think the only reason they're doing the Mass Effect ones is because it was a great way to get people back on their side after what was the game called? After Anthem debacle and Mass Effect Andromeda debacle, then, to be fair to them, and a lot of people forget this, to be fair to them, they did make an absolute gem of a game, which was Dragon Age Inquisition, which was an absolute stonker of a game. Is it as good as Origins? Not in my opinion, but it is the best one since. And it's a terrific game, absolutely amazing. Another one that I've platted, and it's very few. I've not got the 1,000 Gs, but I've got the plat, and I went out my way to get it because I adored the game so much. I thought I'm going for it, and I think people tend to forget that they did do that cracking game. It's like, oh, they've had these 2 nightmares. They need something to, if it doesn't work this time, it's going to be, and that's true to some extent. But they do forget that Dragon Age Inquisition was a massive hit and a massively successful game, and a really great one as well. So I think it's a bit unfair to say they've not got anything successful through that generation. They did have one cracking game through that generation. Did it make them enough money to justify the whole studio? Probably not, if you're talking about making 3 games and only one of them doing that well. But you'll probably find, though, that Mass Effect Andromeda probably sold quite well, even though it got badly reviewed because of its problems. I don't think it was a bad review, though, was it? I think it got 7s and 8s. But it was buggy and all that sort of stuff. And it didn't shake anyone's world or anything. So, I think we are looking at... they've already said they are doing new Mass Effects. I guess we'll probably get Shepard back, and they'll go back to the format that was highly successful for them, and it'll probably work. But none. I don't think any of the people, or if there is any, not many, of the people that made the original Mass Effect are there anymore anyway. So I don't expect to see the same game from then. For me, and there's always a debate, and it's nearly always a debate of 1 and 2 as to which one is the best. My personal opinion is 1 is the best game because it is by far the RPG of the 3 games. The more we went forward with that trilogy, the more it became about action and story and relationships and not about RPG. And the reason I adored the first one so much was because of the RPG elements to it and how open it was. And when you landed on a planet, it was like, I've landed on a planet, I'm going to go and explore, not scan a planet from a separate game. All this sort of stuff. And to be fair, I kind of enjoyed the scanning planet thing for a little bit, but it was far more wow when you played the first game to like, oh, I've just landed on this planet, right? Let's go see what I can find, And, scooting about in the buggy and all that sort of stuff. I believe they've made the buggy controls better in, forgetting the name of it now, but the buggy controls in they say buggy, it holds about 6 people or something. the Mako, the big Jeep. So they've made apparently the mechanics in the first one better because they were far too sensitive in the original, so they've tweaked those. And it'll be interesting to see if they've done anything with the battle mechanics to sort of bring them more in line with each other, but I doubt it. I think they've probably left them as similar as they can. As similar as they can be to the original games. But to be fair, I still, and it might be different this time around, but when I went from Mass Effect 1 to even 2 and 3, I still preferred the mechanics of fighting in the first one. I'd have to go back and play them again, but everyone else who I spoke to said, oh, they were really clumsy, I didn't like them, I loved the second one, and then the third one even got even better. But I didn't like the way that Shepard ran in the third one. It was far too loose, it was all over the place. And in the second one, it felt like he was running with lead weights all over him. But the first one just felt quite natural to me now, thinking back on it. And it was by far my favourite, And then the Citadel in the first one felt like this massive place. And yet, when you go into 2, I feel that it's still in, it just kind of felt like hardly anything. There was just a little bit there. I think there was a few rooms or something, I can't remember. But it wasn't much. And you certainly didn't see the expanse of it like you did. I know you didn't go everywhere in it in the first one, but it felt like you could go anywhere. It felt like this massive entity where the whole universe or galaxy came together. And that was all kind of lost in 2 and 3. And, but they were good. They were all good in their own way, but 1 is by far the best one for me. Always wins out. And along with that, the story was fantastic. It let itself open up to moving on, but it had a nice tight story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it was a great story. It was a great baddie. It was a great, just a great thing to see through. But it also sort of opened up as the end for like, oh, what's going to happen next? So, there was that. Whereas with the other 2, I never quite felt that with the other 2. If anything, I was just kind of like, what the hell is going on? I mean, the second one's more about helping your team members out and the relationships between them. And then there's the main Martin Sheen baddie guy. I can't even remember what the story is. Anyway, it all comes to a terrible end, I'm sure. But anyway, I feel like the first one, certainly story wise, was like that. It was nice and tight. I felt like I had a complete game, even though it was slightly open at the end, and the experience was fantastic. And then when I went straight, because I played this really late in the day, I immediately went into the second one, which was probably a mistake because everything felt different. It didn't feel like an RPG anymore. Well, certainly not as much. And just everything felt different. I mean, I think probably if I go back now, I'll probably find that using things like the skills and the bio stuff and all that, I think probably all that stuff's far smoother in 2 and 3, maybe. And, they refined it a lot, I think, when they moved on. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how I feel bouncing from game to game like I did before, if I feel the same way, because I did feel disappointed when I jumped into the second one and it wasn't the same mechanics. It just felt completely different. And, nobody wants to make the same game over and over again. But, Gears of War is Gears of War in 1, 2, and 3. Like, they add a couple of moves and that's about it. So what you loved in the first one is there in the second one. And that, I never felt jumping from a Gears of War 1 to a Gears of War 2 was any different, really. There might have been the odd button change or but it was the same thing. So I felt like the jumps were large, and when it's certainly moving from that one straight into the second one, it felt like a massive leap to something else. And I was like, I don't like it as much as the first one. So, it'll be interesting to see how I feel about it this time around. And 3 is what it is. 3 probably has the refinements that you want in most things, although I didn't like his movement, as I say, but it had really kind of lost its RPG elements by that point, and it was all about, try to tie up every possible story route, but didn't do it particularly well, which got a lot of a hard time at the time, because everyone was expecting to be able to, have all these gazillion different ways for it to end, and there was like 3 or something. But still a terrific trilogy nonetheless. The problem is, of course, you're making 3 games like that, you're probably looking at it spanning over like at least 10 to 12 years to make 3 games like that. And in that amount of time, people leave, different people come in, the people that made the first one aren't there anymore, it's making the second one or the third one, and a lot of things change, and it's only natural. So you're never going to get the same game all over again, But anyway, exciting nonetheless, people, exciting nonetheless. I've also seen... Well, let me know in the comments below, by the way, which is your favourite Mass Effect. Is it 1 or is it 2 or is it 3? And are you super stoked about the trilogy coming out? All the DLCs with the trilogy, apart from there was one... I should have written this down. There's apparently one thing not in the trilogy. The Pantheon... I want to say Pantheon or something. I can't remember. But there's something not in it that I think was a DLC that isn't in it because apparently they lost the code. So they have no code for that particular part. So that's why it's not there, if you start wondering why something's not there. But yeah, but it's good. Like, everything will be with it. I don't think I ever played any of the DLC for any of them anyway, so it'll be good to see that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about those coming out. And I don't know, I'd be tempted to play the first one on the channel because it's a proper RPG, that. Space RPG, but... I don't know. The problem with a game like that is, especially when you go to the Mako points and you're driving around the planet, you can be driving around for ages trying to find... flipping over into dunes and all sorts for bloody hours trying to find things, people. But I'd be tempted to do it on the channel, maybe. Certainly the first one. I wouldn't be tempted to do the second 2 because they're not really RPGs, but I'd be tempted to do the first one. See how we go. We'll see if it's something you guys want to. Well, let me know in the comments if it's something you'd want to see me play. I mean, usually these things are decided by who likes them and who watches them. I mean, to be honest with you, it's a bit like Immortals Phoenix Rising. Like, it's not got the biggest views of my videos, but it's getting the most amount of likes. So if I get a really good like ratio to view ratio, you'll absolutely keep me playing something. So keep those thumbs up coming, people. If I get 100 views with 2 likes consistently, then I kind of doubt that people are actually enjoying what I'm putting up. So there is a balance to be found. And at the moment, both Skyrim and Immortals Phoenix Rising seem to get around the same amount of likes, with Skyrim getting probably a bit more views. But so, I do look at these things and, that's what decides where I keep going with something in the end. I'll certainly most likely put maybe a couple of episodes of each of them up, just so you can see them, and certainly the first one. But if it proves popular, I would do a lot more. The other thing I've seen bouncing around, I hadn't planned to talk about this, it's just popped into my head while I was talking, is Biomutant, I think it's called, isn't it? And it's THQ Nordic that are making that one, I think, or publishing it anyway. And it's one of these things that was announced like 2017 or something and shown off, but it's still not appeared yet. But it's getting close, and I think that might have a May release as well. And the more I see of it, the more I think that might actually be really cool. But I can't quite make out just how much RPG is in it. I think there's quite a lot though. But if you haven't seen any footage of it, it's really hard for me to explain it without, I mean, I'll try and put a little bit of footage up, I guess, while I'm talking about it. But it just looked like this crazy little character, and it's got this sort of whack, bot, pow kind of old 60s Batman type fighting thing going on. So these things are popping up when you're smashing creatures and stuff. It's got its own style. It's got its own, I mean, it really, it doesn't look like anything I've kind of seen before. So I'm kind of really curious about it. They were saying they were really baffled because they've made this Biomutant special model that's about $400 or something. And it's it's coming from a studio that doesn't tend to do proper massive AAA titles, and yet they've got, every time they release something, they seem to do these $400-500 statues and stuff, or collector's edition. I think it comes with a board game, or and yet they think, well, why are they doing that, spending all that money when it, but they don't seem to do an awful lot of promotion of the thing, but they seem to do all these really fancy things around it. But I guess to some degree, probably what makes it a collector's edition of whatever, isn't it? A very rare thing with a game that, is kind of a cult classic, if you like, rather than a gazillion statues of something anybody can get, but it always surprises me that there's not more collectors, sort of a collector's edition, sort of lower end one. If you think about, for example, I'll give you an example, the Golem that I've got, when I do my vlogs downstairs, I've got a Golem, and it came a statue of Golem, and it's proper sort of clay and cast in something, and it's a gorgeous little statue, and it came with the Two Towers collectible. So it came in the Two Towers extended version in a sort of box set thing. And with each of them, the first one came with the two kings holding their hands out. The second one came with Gollum. Third one came with the Minas Tirith sort of statue jewelry thing, which is also in the videos when you watch my vlogs downstairs. It sits right to the left of everything else against the window frame. And yet, I think the actual sets were probably about, I don't know, I want to say £50-60. I think they were £40-50 at the time. But they had this Gollum statue in them, really nice, solid clay statue, all painted up really nice. Good size as well. And yet, when you come to a gaming thing, they're £200. It's hang on a minute, why can't you make a clay statue of this character that I like and a really nice design at that marker, with the game and the statue at around, we're a number of years on now, say even 50 to 70 quid would be perfect. But there seemed to be a ridiculous amount of money for just to get a statue of somebody that's in a game. I don't understand it. It's bizarre. And then an awful lot of things seem to be coming plastic now instead of, if you want to get them at a cheaper price. But why can we get, these sort of box set for the DVDs and stuff at that price, and yet when it comes to making the similar thing for a game, it's 200-300 quid? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then there's a massive market for that sort of, that midway point where you get a really good statue, but it's at a reasonable price, and it would come in a proper little box set with your statue and your game in it, or whatever. If you're buying it digitally, they'll send the statue through the post or something like that. But I've never quite understood it. It's really strange to me, because I feel like they're getting these statues made that probably cost them about $5 to make, and they're selling them for $300. That's what it feels like, and it's probably true. You know what I mean? I don't know, people. Rip off. That said, I think to be fair to Naughty Dog, what was the Ellie statue with The Last of Us Part 2? Was it 100 and blah pounds? It was still, I'm sure it was over 100 quid though. I can't remember. There was a Final Fantasy one as well with mind blank. The main character and the motorbike, basically. Tidus or Tidus? Is it Tidus or Tidus? Tell me in the comments below. He's always not Tidus. That's Final Fantasy X. Tidus and Tidus is Final Fantasy X. Cloud, thank you. Whoever said that? I heard you. Cloud and the motorbike. So yeah. Anyway, I digress. as always. There was something else I was going to talk about, and it's now gone right out of my head, people. Right out of my head. But anyway, for someone who had no notes, we've got to 30 minutes, people. And really, the point of the podcast really was just to let you know that I am absolutely still excited about recording more. There's going to be lots more coming your way now that this week is out the way. I've still got a number of things to do with this work thing, but the crux of it, the big bits that I really wanted to get up and running, people are happily working again is the main thing. So now that that's all patched up and good to go, I don't have to worry about working into the night next week. So I'll be able to finish up at a reasonable hour and start cracking on with some recording like I was doing. So the intent, yeah. So I will crack into more Skyrim. I will crack into more Immortals: Phoenix Rising. I always forget the Immortals bit, which is why I pause whenever I say that game. They should have left it as Immortals: Gods and Monsters, I think. Immortals: Gods and Monsters, I don't know. Was it better or worse? Immortals: Gods and Monsters, Immortals: Phoenix Rising. I think the reason they changed it was that they wanted to establish that character, but then it's like, well, if they do make a second one, surely Phoenix isn't going to be, in Egypt or in Norway or wherever it is they put it, She's not. I mean, the character's Greek, so she's going to stay there, isn't she? Unless they're planning on doing more with the Greek stuff. But I don't know if it'd grow a bit tiresome. You probably want to move them around. So, unless it's going to be Immortals Egyptian person rising, Immortal Skyrim, Valhalla person rising, or whatever they call the Viking one. I suppose they could go with that. That would work, people, wouldn't it? So that's maybe why they went with that, actually, because if it's Immortals, Gods and Monsters, then it would have to be Immortals, Gods and Monsters 2, I suppose. So instead of having... I think companies are trying to get away from the numbers on games. So it could be that's why they changed the name. Immortals Phoenix Rising, Immortals Somebody Else Rising, Immortals Somebody Else Rising. So that would work. Be better than 1, 2 and 3 and stuff, I suppose. Brilliant game, though. So good. Anyway, if I talk any longer, people, it will literally be just making stuff up as I go along. The few things I had in my head have gone, people. Hey, we got 33 minutes or so out of it, didn't we? Eh? So there you are. And we were back in the podcast room. Yeah. I've missed it up here a little bit, to be fair. I have. But it has been nice back in the vlog room. It'd be interesting to see what I call this. I'll have to call it a podcast. I'm in the podcast room, people, aren't I? Anyway, there you are. That's all I have for you. I'm going to go. I'm going to leave you to your Friday nights. On the upside, because it's only half an hour long, or 34 minutes as we're getting to, it won't take as long to render, I suppose, and it might be earlier for you by the time you're seeing this. I shall go off and piece all this together with, if I can find a bit of footage of the things I've been talking about, I shall throw them up behind me, as I always do, and in the meantime keep ticking away my day job stuff. So there you are. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you in this podcast of mine today. And I shall see you in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.